Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie McGarvie, and welcome to Play Based Neurodiversity Affirming Strategies, empowering parents everywhere to support their children. I am very excited to be here today. I am new to Facebook Live, so be patient with me as I try to share my screen and tell you a little bit more about play and all of the wonderful things. So, like I said, my name is Maggie McGarvie. I am a ASHA certified and New York State licensed SLP in the USA. I have been working as an SLP for 16 years now. I've worked in private practices, early interventions, school systems, but mostly with the pediatric population is where my passion really lies. And I mostly work with neurodivergent or autistic children or preschool age children, kind of the younger guys are my wheelhouse. I really love my job. I am a school-based SLP right now, and I love my job, but I also have an intense passion for helping families outside of school connect with their children and really build these bonds and connections. I also have two wonderful children of my own and love the Buffalo Bills. So now that you know a little bit about me, let's make sure you're in the right place today and want to be learning. We are going to be talking about the difference between joining and interrupting play, the ways to best support and understand each child, and also yourself, because you are the communication partner in play. And so you need to understand what you're bringing to it as well as what your child is bringing to it, why waiting is essential in play, and how to model and not withhold items. So I really am all about connection and engagement. And as much as we want to build the words, those are so important. We really need to look at the whole child and find out what motivates them and what we can do to support them during their play. So if all of that sounds interesting to you, please stay on the Facebook Live. And we are learning this because play is a great way to organically connect with a child. It's not supposed to be a quiz session or testing how much they know. It's really there to let everything else go and focus on the connection. So before I go into all of the play types and the play things that you can do at home, we need to stop and take two mindset shifts and think about sensory systems. So a lot of autistic children have a lot of sensory needs. So you could have a high sensory seeker who's bouncing off the walls and wants to jump all the time, or really low sensory seeking. They kind of avoid everything, headphones, they don't like loud noises, don't like certain textures. So you need to think about what your child's needs are to feel safe and regulated. We don't want to introduce a play activity that might get the child too ramped up and then they're so high that they can't connect because they're not feeling regulated and safe in their body. So just think about your child and think about kind of some of the sensory needs that they might have before starting to really think about activities that you can do during play. Also, we need to think biologically. Your child's brain is different than yours. So, what is going on in their brain is completely different than what's going on in your brain. So, I watched a previous Facebook Live with Kate Panfile with understanding different brain styles. So, if you haven't watched that one, I encourage you to go back and watch it. And basically, the autistic brain has an overconnectivity. They've done research now to really show there are so many synapses and neurons firing at all times that autistic children have trouble taking out and filtering what's the important information. So think of it as a computer browser. If you have too many tabs open, it might be slower to respond. So I want you to think about what your child's response rate is, what could be going on that in the environment, or if there's a background noise that might be distracting them from connecting with you, and really try to get inside of their brain and what you think could be going on that can help, that you can remove. So if the dishwasher is running, if you think that might be something that is distracting, turn off the dishwasher when you want to try to engage in meaningful play with them. But that could be a whole other, both of these, sensory and biological, could be a whole other presentation in itself. So I just want you to have those in the back of your mind as I go through the different kind of play styles today, to be thinking about. You need those two things to kind of be understood before you can connect with your child, because if they're not regulated, they're not ready to connect. So now I want you to, sorry, my computer's popping up something. Think about joining versus interrupting. This is huge because early on in my career, I found myself to be interrupting a lot. And now I go back and kind of cringe when I think about it because I wasn't joining their play, I was interrupting it. So I want you all to think about if you're sitting down to watch your favorite show or your favorite sporting event, and all of a sudden someone comes in the room and turns off the TV on you. You're going to be really frustrated. You're going to be upset. You might have a big reaction. Why are you doing that? What are you doing? And you're kind of going to automatically go to that defensive, get out of my face. This person is not my favorite right now. Okay, so that's option one. Option two is you're watching your favorite show, you're a couple episodes in, or the game is, at the end of the first quarter and it's closed, and someone comes in and starts saying, "What's going on? What's she doing? What's going on here? Who's winning?" And starts asking you all of these questions. That is going to be frustrating. And once again, you're going to kind of not want that person in your space. They are not adding to your enjoyment, they're taking away from it. And I am 100% guilty of this, where I need to really watch myself and watch how much I'm talking and not ask a million questions. My mom is notorious for coming in the middle of a movie and doing this. And we always have to pause the movie and be like, okay, we'll catch you up quickly, but it's annoying. So you don't want to be an annoying play partner. So that's option number two. Option number three is now you're in the third quarter of the game, you're almost to the end of the series that you're watching, and someone comes in and just starts moving all the furniture in the room you're in. You're still able to watch what's going on, but you're also being distracted by this person, and you're kind of thinking, why are they doing that right now? What are they doing? And they're making noise. And it's also upsetting you because you're invested in this show or game right now, and they're not making it enjoyable anymore. So you might ask them to stop, or you might even leave to go to another room to finish it if it's that annoying. But you definitely don't want to connect with that person right then. So finally, we get to the last option where now you're at the end of the game or the end of the series, and there's a big scene about to happen, and someone comes in and just sits with you. They might not even sit next to you. They just kind of sit in the room with you, and a big play happens or a big scene. And all of a sudden the person goes, "Huh." And you also had that same reaction. And then I'm going to look over and realize, and that right there is a genuine connection because you both had a shared interest. You had your joint attention, which means you're both focused on the same thing. And now you've connected. Even if the child doesn't look at you, they know you're there and they feel that. So that is so much more powerful than asking questions, than moving stuff around to rearrange their play, than stopping what they're doing and trying to get them involved in what you want to do. So I want you to think about that as you're setting up your environment or really thinking about times when you can connect with your child, that you're doing it in a meaningful way to them. We want to add to their enjoyment, not take away from it ever. So now that hopefully your mind is thinking about their sensory needs and what could be going on in their brain, and you're not going to interrupt, you're going to really try to join them, we are going to think about you and your child. Because like I said in the beginning, play takes two people, or the play we're talking about today. So think about your child. What is their biggest interest? So if you left them alone to their own device to do whatever they wanted, what would they choose to do? And what would be engaging for them? Is it lining up cars? Is it watching the same clip on an iPad over and over? What is an interest of theirs? Because if you know that, you can use that to your advantage. You also want to think about their biggest strength. So is it that your child is very detail oriented and can sit and do Legos for hours on end, or can organize things, or is sweet and kind and likes to, give hugs and line stuff up and make it look neat and orderly. Whatever it might be, every child has strengths. So sometimes it's difficult if your child is having a lot of behaviors and you're kind of at your wits' end, but there are strengths in there. So even something that might seem like watching an iPad over and over is kind of a weakness. What is the strength? Is it that they can fine motor control the tile to get it exactly where they want it? Is it that their attention can be so focused that they're noticing little details everywhere? So find the strengths in your child. And then once again, we're going to use those to try to help them engage with us and expand on their play skills. The other thing you want to think about are the challenges, because that is important to acknowledge those. So if your child has the opposite problem, has a really hard time focusing, then we're going to try to pick stuff that it might be a little more flashy and engaging for them than maybe just a book or some basic blocks. That might not be enough for them to really get them engaged and interested in different types of play. So this is kind of moving fast because it's going to be a half an hour. So I'm trying to be aware and respect everybody's time out there. So I'm going at a fast rate. So if you need to pause it or come back to it later, these are really good questions to ask yourself and be honest about. Or if a partner or a grandparent sees the child a lot and you would like them to engage more with the child, like really talk about these things and figure out ways that you can use them. The other place that you need to kind of be honest about is yourself. So, what are your strengths? So, for me, one of mine is I can be really patient with my children at work. Now, when I have my mom hat on and I'm home, my own children might not say the same thing about me. So, I need to look at that as a strength and a challenge. So, I use all my patience at work, that at home, sometimes that's a challenge for me. But I'm going to be honest with myself about it, because if I am not, then I'm going to go into it and be like, oh, I'm so patient. And when I get upset with my child really quickly, I need to be able to check myself like, okay, I need to be more better about this. Another thing is strengths and challenges. What do you enjoy? So for me, I got to a point where at home with my daughter, I just couldn't take the Barbies anymore. I couldn't take the dressing them and the talking with them and the cars. I just couldn't do it. So, as much as I wanted to engage with her in that play, and I did, I knew I had a finite amount of time before, for me, I was like, I'm not in this. And kids know when you're not in it. So that's why the last one is your energy. I'm not going to get super woo woo on anybody, but I am a big believer in kids can sense your energy. So if I was playing Barbies with my daughter, she knew if I wasn't there. She knew if I was distracted by something else or that I didn't want to be doing it, whether I said it or not. I could be faking it really great, but they know. So you really want to find a time that if you're going to use play to really connect with your child and try to make these meaningful experiences, that you're in it. You are present in that moment with them and you let everything else go and make sure you're bringing good energy and excitement and love and connection to that play. Otherwise, your child is not going to be interested because they know it's fake. So if you had a terrible day at work and you come home and you want to play, you can still play with your child, but that stress is still going to be weighing on you. So don't beat yourself up if your child is a little less engaged that day. Maybe they're having a bad day too. You really need to watch the energy in the house and get um, everybody kind of on the same page and try to be positive about this because it's not easy. Play is kind of a term that everyone thinks, oh, it's just fun, let the kids play. It is work, it's its own domain of development. Researchers have studied it. So it's kind of a big deal. So it's not just something that you can, be like, it's whatever, we didn't play today, not a big deal. It's the same thing with reading, with doing math, with all these other things that we expect children to learn. They also need to learn how to play. So we need to give them opportunities. All right. So, as I said, play is a whole science, it is a whole domain. And what I want you to really focus on, there's a lot on this slide, so I'm sorry about that. But there is a science of play. There are stages of play that scientists and researchers have studied and looked at, and people way smarter than me. And I did not put any age ranges on these slides because I don't want you to think about ages. I want you to look at these stages and think about your child and think about where they are now and where you want them to be. Because you should not be comparing your child to everybody else. You should be comparing your child to where they are now to where you want them to go in the future or where they were in the past. So these also, all these scientists and researchers, they really, and clinicians, Dr. Greenspan was a great clinician too. They use these on neurotypical children. So there is new research coming out that is showing some differences in autistic individuals and neurodivergent population in their styles of play, in their language development. So those are all things that we need to also take into consideration. So you really want to compare your child to themselves, and that's it. So if your child is at one level now, put a note in your phone after this presentation on where you think they are, and then put a reminder in your phone to come back in 6 months and check and see, like, hey, did we make any gains? Where are we now? What else could we be doing? But don't, you can Google these after you're done or if you're already doing it now. Don't see attention and regulation and think, oh my goodness, that is the first level and more of what a quote, like a baby when my child's 7. That's okay. If your child is there, we're just going to try to move him down the scale where he is now. So it doesn't, I would encourage everyone not to get focused on the numbers or the ranges and just look at the steps, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go over these quickly, but the science of play, Dr. Greenspan, amazing. I can't say enough things about all his research. He is a great knowledge base if you want to Google him. So much information about play. But really, he found these 6 main areas of play and 3 additional areas. I'm going to start with just these 6 today, which begins with attention and regulation. So this is just if your child is attending to things when regulated, doesn't even need to be interacting yet. It's just kind of being able to attend to things and be safe and calm. Like I talked about that sensory system in the beginning. Are they regulated? Are they in control? Then we're going to go into engaging in the world. And this is where we begin to see the child exploring their environment. So, kind of, picking stuff up now, looking at it, starting to have increased engagement with facial expressions or show preferences. If you put out 2 toys, they're going to go for the preferred item. Then it moves into two-way communication, which this is when we get all the wheels on the bus and all the silly songs and peekaboo games. And they're kind of really starting to imitate and interact more with people. Then we have shared problem solving. So this is when kids can follow directions. There's a little more content in their play. They kind of have a consistent connection. So if you're playing with cars, you roll a car to them, they're going to roll it back to you. If it gets stuck, you guys are going to kind of figure out who's going to go get it in the middle of you both. But it's kind of more of that engaging in connection in the play. Then meaningful use of ideas. This is where we start to see the pretend play and the consistent engagement, the consistent interaction and back and forth, kind of like a volleyball net. You hit the ball over, they hit it back, and you're really working together. The last stage in the main 6 is logical thinking. So this is when we're answering and asking questions and really a higher level. If your student is or your child is non-speaking, a child could still be at logical thinking if they have an AAC device or some spelling to communicate or some other form of communication. So remember, we're not just looking at verbal abilities here, we're looking at how they're engaging with play and other people. Then Mildred Parton did the stages of play. So this is another area that you can kind of look at to gauge where is your child now and what do you want to be working towards. So the first is unoccupied. So this is kind of similar to they're content by themselves. They don't need anything. This is, like I said, if you just left your child alone, if they would just kind of sit and be, then that's where they are. The second one moves into playing alone. So now your child is fine on their own, but they want to be engaging with a toy or with something of interest to them. They're seeking out that. They just don't want to sit there. by themselves anymore. They need more engagement. Then you have an onlooker. So this is when kids are watching what you're doing or watching other children. They're not necessarily ready to engage with them, but they're definitely aware and kind of maybe start imitating without engaging. And then that moves to parallel play, which is what we usually see where kids will kind of play next to each other, but they're not engaging in the same thing. But they like being around other people or can tolerate it and engaging with their own toy. Then moving to associative, this is when, we start to see kids sharing or might be using the same toy, but not necessarily in the same way. So if I'm stacking my block tower and another kid is stacking their block tower, and they might be grabbing from my pile and I'm grabbing from their pile. And then cooperative play is the last one. And that would be more where you see the kids interacting to share toys, to maybe build a tower together now. And what the goal is, obviously, in all schools, and what parents want is they want their kids to have this cooperative play where they can play on the playground or be engaging with other children and adults. So that was a lot of information. Feel free to reach out on the Facebook Live or send any questions or Google it. That's why I put their names on there, because this is their ideas. It's brilliant. And there's so much more information that you can learn about play. And I think people take for granted that parents just know how to play with their kids when really there is a science behind it. And so looking at it from this point of view, if your child is really an onlooker and just watching other people, what can we do to support them to get them into parallel play? Do we, whatever toy they have, should we get the same toy? So we both have the same thing. And maybe we can start engaging a little more to kind of have them be motivated to maybe try mine and I could try theirs, and we can get some sharing and some other stuff in there. And I can answer specific questions too. But you really want to engage, find something that they like to do, and you're going to wait and join them. So, as I said before, if with the Netflix example, if you come in and a child likes to line up a bunch of cars, a lot of students love the lines, they love their color patterns. I appreciate that. And so if I come in and take a car and start crashing it, I just went from a engaging in the world child to really just kind of engaging in that play and playing alone, and like try to jump them to meaningful use of ideas and associative and cooperative play. And that's not going to work. So as much as these scales were really, I said, researched with neurotypical children, it still is showing that autistic children are similar in their development with their play and might just take longer at each stage. So that's not fair for me. That's like me going to another country and someone expecting me to be just okay speaking Spanish. Like, you just jump me to a whole other vocabulary that I am not ready for. So take a step back and really wait and watch your child. Are they just lining up the cars by certain colors? Are they all going a certain way? Are they just spinning the wheels because they really like to see it? And then you're going to figure out a way to join at their level. So if a child with the cars, for example, is lining them up, I might just go start and take my own cars and line up close to them, because now I'm trying to take someone who is playing alone and trying to make them an onlooker to see if they'll kind of watch what I'm doing. And maybe I'm going to do a little sabotage and put one of my cars backwards and see if they notice, because I've had that happen before where I'm playing next to a child and I will do it wrong. And so they'll just come over and fix my car and go back to their play. But guess what? They just engaged with me. They showed me that they are noticing what I'm doing. And that is a big win. As much as it seems like they're being controlling or they didn't say anything, that is a small win that they're doing it, because then I know, one, they're attending to me. And so maybe I can start modeling more language. Maybe I can start adding to their cars and make one big line instead of our two similar lines. So you really want to think about these things and figure out what you can do. Sorry, I'm going to check my notes for a second just to make sure I am saying everything I want to say. So it's really important. You want to be waiting and joining at their level. All right. So to kind of sum all those things up, when you are engaging, so you've figured out kind of what stage your child is at, and now you kind of want to be thinking about what's the next logical step to jump to the next stage. You want to focus on connection. So connection over communication, connection over compliance, connection over everything, basically. So I know we want that verbal speech. We want them to be using an AAC device. We want all those things, but we also really want that connection. So with that kid moving my car, it showed me that he was connected with me, even though he didn't have to say anything. So if I would have in that moment been like, oh, say move, say red, say car, I'm going to lose him. So we want to try to find ways that we are connecting with children, not quizzing them or making them do X, Y, and Z in order to do something for us. This is their play. Remember, we're trying to join their play. So we are going to honor all forms of communication. So by flipping that car, that was a gesture, that was a movement. I'm going to take it and not necessarily force him to do anything besides that connection. We're not going to say car, or if I'm playing with blocks and the student comes over and starts building on my tower, and it might not be what I was going for, but I'm going to follow their lead and build what they want or build how they want. A lot of kids recently have been loving the rainbow when I do play sessions. So if I notice he is building in a rainbow color pattern and he has a bunch of red, I know orange is coming next, and I'm not going to say orange, say orange. I might just model it. So every time he goes to grab one, I might say orange, orange block, more orange blocks, and kind of just be modeling language. I'm not going to withhold it because, like I said, then we are really making the child perform to just engage with us. There is a time for that necessarily where we want to push the child to get more verbal speech, but leave that for therapy at home. You focus on that connection. And so you really just want to be modeling. If a child is kind of engaging with you in, what's another example we can use that I haven't yet? We did cars, we get a bus. Say they like to line up different figures. A lot of my kids like to do that. I might just be modeling like Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and just kind of modeling what they could say. Then I might accidentally knock one over and be like, uh-oh, what happened to Mickey? Mickey fell down, and kind of make these like sing-songy voices and big reactions, be silly. I tell people all the time, I probably look like a complete idiot when I'm engaging with a child. But I don't care because children love to be silly. They just do. If I have some children that really love emotions, and so they want to see me cry, and they think it's funny if I'm like, so, think about what your child really enjoys and what you can do to bring awareness to yourself, because we're going to use those toys, use those intrinsic motivation, which means the things that they prefer and want to do on their own, and to our advantage to get them to start with that and then make it more of a connection between us, and we can kind of drop the toy because they realize we're kind of fun and we're a better plaything than necessarily one block, because now I can put a block on my head and go "Achoo," and have it fall off. And a kid might say, "What's happening?" But then they're going to go and put a block back on my head because they want to see it again. And then I can start saying more, or let's try the orange block, or then they can imitate me and do it themselves. So it's okay to be silly. It's okay to look stupid. No one's judging. And if they are, they shouldn't be, because we're all just trying our best. So you want to follow their lead, like I just said. I had a student once, this is one of my favorite examples, who was lining up cars, and I was trying to figure out what, because I tried to hand him a car and he'd push it away from me, to tell me like, nope, I'm not doing it. And so it took me a minute, but I realized he was lining them up based on where they were made. So he had memorized them, or we had played with them enough that he knew like made in USA, made in Japan, made in China, and he was putting them all. So once I figured that out, I was like, here's China. And he looked at me like, and then I'd say, here's USA. And he knew that I understood his logical pattern. And that made the connection. It wasn't the toy anymore. It was that I was trying, and I had in that moment understood him enough to be able to help him in his play. So you're going to try to join. It's okay to be silent and just watch. I've had a couple kids where it takes me 3 or 4 sessions to just allow them to allow me in their space, because I might go and sit next to them and kind of just play next to them, and they get up and walk away. And so that's them telling me they're not ready. So I might play a little farther away and we'll try again another time. It might take a couple times for your child to really accept you into their environment and into their play, because if they've been kind of by themselves for a while, if they've been at a bystander, it might take them a little while to be an onlooker. So it's okay to take the time to be silent and just sit with your child, just watch them. If there is a video clip that your child loves to watch, or everybody's loving Bluey right now, it's okay to just sit next to them and try to enjoy what they're enjoying. And then maybe after watching an episode, you start commenting. And then maybe if the dad does something silly, you laugh and see if your child notices. So there are ways to just kind of join them without using so much language. Silence is golden. I get paid to talk to my students and have them talk back to me. But the one lesson I have really learned is that silence is so powerful. Just connect, have that energy, like I talked about. If they know you're there for a loving, kind of fun and accepting, you're going to accept where they're at right now. That means everything. Versus I've had teachers that just have really high demands and kids can feel that and will kind of shy away from that. And you're going to take time that works for you. So, like I said, life is busy. I am a single mom, so I know it is a lot going on between work and home and just life in general, society. And so, try to be aware that, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes today to really try to play in a meaningful way. You can play more, but also if you're checking your phone while you're sitting there watching your child, they know you're on your phone. So, really try to take some time to be really mindful and super present in the moment and observe your child, wait and see what they're interested in and follow their lead. That will make all the difference in kind of how strong the play skills are. And I think I kind of was jumping the gun. So what can you do? This is what I was just talking for. You're going to explore, you're going to look for patterns. What are they interested in? What can you do to kind of join them? So if it's cars, I'm not going to just take their cars. I might need to go out and get a couple more cars so that way they have theirs and I have mine, and we can kind of play next to each other for a little bit. Remember, silence is okay. Definitely jumped the gun. Sorry about that. Silence is really okay because you can connect without words, as probably you all know. And then GLP phrases, this is kind of for Gestalt language processors, which could also be a talk all in itself, but it's basically for children who are learning language in chunks. So if your child learns a phrase from a song or a show or something they heard at school and they're repeating it in different environments, they may be trying to communicate something for you. I recently had a little girl who kept saying, "It's a hospital, it's a hospital." And what she was remembering was that we played one day, this little barn toy that I have, we played doctor with the animals. And we, instead of it being a barn, it was a hospital. And we would take all the little animals and play doctor with them. And so when she would say it's a hospital at home, she was indicating to her parents that she might want to play doctor, but they didn't know that. So we had to kind of have open communication to me to say like, "Oh, I think she's mentioning this." Or, "Hey, she's saying this at home, at school now. Did she do something at home with this? Or where do you think you could have seen it?" You really kind of want to keep that communication open between anybody who works with or spends time with your child, because they might be saying something that doesn't make sense to you, but they're trying to communicate something to you. So it's just another thing to kind of be aware of if your child is using these phrases in different environments and you're noticing these patterns. Definitely look up Gestalt language processing. It's a whole other way that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but is now finally, of children developing language. So think about that also. The last thing I'm going to talk about is surrendering. We kind of also talked about in the last the last slide, but you're not surrendering, you're not giving up. Oh, my child only likes to be on his iPad. I'm going to give up. He's never going to play with me. No, that's not what I mean. You're going to surrender what you want. You're going to give up your ego and what you think your child should be doing, what you want to play. For example, if a child's doing a puzzle, I just had this happen the other day and it crushed me. He just stopped mid puzzle. And if I wouldn't have surrendered and been like, no, we have to finish this puzzle, let's do this puzzle, then I would have lost him. He lost interest. So I kind of surrendered that I wanted to finish the puzzle. And we went off and we were able to connect with something different. For whatever reason, he was done with it. And so you're going to surrender your agenda. You still are always looking for connection. You're always looking for the communication. But if I'm focused on what I think the child should be doing or what I want to do, you're going to lose them immediately before we even start. So really, you're going to surrender what you think should be happening and wait for that initiation. Like I said, it might take a little while for your child to be comfortable with you in their space, with you engaging with their toys, but you're going to wait for it. If all of a sudden I am lining something up or playing with something next to a child, then they give me something or they come and take one of mine, that's initiation that now we can engage back and forth, that the child has kind of accepted me into their space. And you're going to reduce demands. I'm not going to withhold things and say this, do this, one more try. That has a place. Believe me, I do that in my job. But when we are just playing and just really trying to follow the child's lead, we're not going to make them perform for us in order to obtain items. And then the last one is your energy. You really want to be watching. If you come into a play session and are really stressed out because of everything going on in life, that's not a good place. Whether you need to meditate or kind of take a couple minutes to yourself or listen to some music, whatever you need to do to kind of ground yourself to be present is really important when you're trying to build on these skills. So, I went a little over half an hour. I'm sorry. Does anybody have any questions? This is when I kind of have to look back and see. I don't see any questions right now, so that's a good thing, I think. But let me keep going. Put any of your questions in the chat if you need them. I also am on social media. I really want to thank you for your time today. I know everybody is very busy, or even if you're watching this on replay, thank you for sitting with me for the half an hour. I do have Instagram and email and YouTube at your at home SLP. Like I said, I'm really passionate about helping parents. There are so many kids in my area on a really long wait list or for services or a diagnosis. And I know it's just a really big issue. So I did create kind of a course that I put for free on YouTube. It's called Compass to True Connection. And it kind of just goes over regulation, language, play, behaviors, kind of just SLP 101 of some things you can do at home or some information to help you kind of maybe understand what's going on with your child. So that's all on YouTube. And then Instagram, if you have any questions, you can email me or message me. I would be happy to connect and support people out there in any way possible. Okay, so there are no questions. So I think we are good. I'm not sure how to end this on my end, but I'm sure they will. But just thank you everyone so much for your time today. I hope I gave you a couple things to think about or a couple things to try at home to connect with your child. Bye for now.